Time now to get the government view on the stories of the day now. We can talk to the Treasury Minister, Nick Thomas-Symonds, now. A very good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. So no reports of any disorder last night. What's your view on this? Has a corner been turned? Is the disorder now over?
Well, firstly, I think that the measures that the government has taken already have sent out a very clear signal. When you have people being dealt with within days through our criminal justice system and receiving prison sentences of up to 3 years, I think that sends out a very strong signal. But secondly, also ensuring that we have thousands of specialist police officers available, visible on our streets. These things are hugely important. But Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, chaired another Cobra meeting last night, and our message going into the weekend to our police officers, who I was able to thank in Bristol for their service yesterday, is to remain vigilant. And the government remains vigilant going into the weekend. We will keep the situation in a state of high readiness. We will keep those additional officers available. And I'm sure you will see more people being processed by our criminal justice system as well. So we go in to the weekend prepared for any eventuality, and I think that's hugely important.
Well, yes, you say you remain vigilant into the weekend, but do you have concerns there? It's the start of the English football season. Are there concerns that far-right groups could seek to exploit some matches, for example?
Look, I think you always are vigilant about far-right activity, and that is what the government will continue to be. As I say, going into this weekend, it's important that the message continues to go out that if you engage in violent, thuggish behaviour on our streets, you're going to be dealt with quickly by the criminal justice system. We've already seen sentences of up to 3 years handed down. People now facing the inside of a prison cell because of the appalling way in which they've conducted themselves in recent days. But also we'll continue to make those additional officers available. And where there are communities with particular fears, I was in Bristol, for example, yesterday talking to Muslim community leaders. We will make sure that we make protection available to those communities as well. It's hugely important.
The Home Secretary told people not to go out on counter-protests, but many did anyway. Was that the right thing to do?
Well, look, I think when people actually went out to peacefully protest in line with the law, they are doing so in line with a fine British tradition. But I think what the Home Secretary is entirely right about, and I would echo, having spoken to police officers yesterday about the strain that they are under, the hours that they are working, I certainly don't think it helps for politicians to be encouraging even more people out on our streets. And that's why the Home Secretary is saying that. That's why I'm not doing that today. But nonetheless, we should make that distinction between that tradition of British peaceful protest, which is very much part of our politics, and the violent thuggery we've seen on our streets. People who turn up outside with weapons are not coming to protest about anything. They are coming with criminal intent. We should be very clear about that distinction.
Well, a Labour councillor has been arrested for comments allegedly made at a counter-protest, and there have been some other isolated incidents as well. We've seen, as you've talked about, some tough justice for those involved in the original disorder. Would you like to see police and the justice system come down hard on those who may have broken the law at counter-protests too?
Well, firstly, in respect of that individual, they've been immediately suspended from the Labour Party. They've been arrested, and I'm sure you wouldn't expect me to comment on the ongoing investigation. But to your general point, away from the individual case, the law applies equally to everybody. And anybody who is engaging on our streets in illegal, violent behaviour, threats of violence, or indeed not on our streets, but online, you will face the full force of the law, whoever you are.
And let's talk about online, because there's been a lot of talk about the role of misinformation in the run-up to this on social media. Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, has talked about the Online Safety Act, which is designed to give more powers to prevent misinformation or to prevent incitement of violence. He says that act isn't fit for purpose and needs to be revisited. Is he right?
Well, look, I thought Sadiq Khan spoke extraordinarily powerfully yesterday, talking about his experience growing up with the National Front in the 1970s and his experience in the appalling abuse that he receives as a senior elected Muslim politician in Britain online. And Sadiq Khan's challenge to the government was that he had that view and he thought the government should be very quickly reviewing the Online Safety Act to form its own view. And I think that's a fair challenge. I think we will be looking at the legal framework that exists for regulating the platform providers. There are obviously aspects of the Online Safety Act that haven't come into effect yet, but we stand ready to make changes if necessary. But I should say, going into this weekend, that is a very legitimate policy issue to deal with for the government in terms of getting our online safety laws right. But as of this weekend, if you are engaging in illegal activity online, if you are inciting or organising violence, irrespective of the outcome of that debate, the police will be coming for you. And that there should be no doubt about that message going into this weekend.
Do you think there should be a public information campaign about social media, about how to spot misinformation, and also about the law when it comes to spreading it?
Well, in terms of misinformation, certainly you are right that that has played a part in recent days. And that is why, yes, of course, we can talk publicly about misinformation and it's important. We do continue to warn people to be vigilant about it when you see information online, just to check it, double check it. Of course, that is hugely important, particularly when people are seeing videos. I was in, for example, as I indicated, I was in Bristol yesterday hearing about videos that had been going around online at particular places that actually were footage from completely different days and different times. So I think certainly we have a message to people of being vigilant and checking. But I think this whole issue of misinformation also relates to how we regulate the platforms. And that is why the government will make sure that it continues to be looking at our online safety laws, continuing to look at not just those parts of the Online Safety Act that have yet to come in, but whether we need to make changes as well. And if we do need to make changes, we will.
And what changes do you think might need to be made?
Well, I think what we need to be looking at in the Online Safety Act is whether or not we need to do anything to make it more effective for platforms to be taking down illegal content. We need to be working with Ofcom to make sure that they have what they require to regulate this space, and that's what the government will continue to look at. But I should just repeat this point because it's really important. That is an important debate, but anyone inciting violence online and doing that now, the police will be coming for you. That is already illegal and falling foul of our criminal law.
Before you go, I just want to get your view on the latest Home Office figures, which show that curbs on visas have contributed to a sharp decline in foreign workers applying to come here, particularly applications for health and care visas. Is that good news? Is it something you welcome?
Well, we did expect the numbers to come down, and that's what we said during the general election. I mean, the previous government had to be pushed by the then opposition to even take away the discount that they were applying for hiring overseas workers. They were applying a 20% discount to do so and had to be pushed by the opposition. So forgive me if I don't award them any credit. But looking at these figures, I just would say two things. Firstly, those who do come from overseas to study in our universities and bring great diversity and cultural richness to them, or those who work in our National Health Service, are very welcome here. They are treating people at their most vulnerable, and we are very grateful for what they do. But it is also the case that we do need to link, and we said this from opposition, it's our position in government, we do need to link the issue of where we are giving overseas visas with a proper strategy here in the UK to ensure that the workforce here gets the skills that they need to fill those jobs as well. And that's exactly what the government will do going forward.
OK, well, Nick Thomas-Symonds, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.